You've seen that in the movies, I'm sure.
Right.
That's where it comes from.
Right.
Yeah. So you talked about finger motion, and we always talk about the combination of finger motion GTII, and that I call them binary. They're two. They kind of run together. Maybe there's other ones that have done that in the past. That was going to be really my question. So our kind of thought process: if one goes, the other one goes. I don't know if that's true, but that's kind of what people believe. And in the past, let's say, prior to like AMC, GME, like that, have you seen that in the past where two stocks were linked together?
No.
And no, okay, interesting. How about
this
you?
Happened, this happened when there was a zero hedge story written. I forget when it was. And they talked about both names. And at that point, that's when the algorithms came around.
Oh, interesting.
That's when they got linked together, because it didn't happen before then.
How long ago was that, Ham? I'm just curious.
Maybe 2 years ago. I don't remember.
Okay, interesting.
Zero hedge was the
it was in the back part of zero. It wasn't in their front page. It was anyway.
It was a big story.
Yeah,
we were all excited. They talk about both our stocks and the shorts and naked shorts and everything. And then the next day it started and that's when I told people that this isn't the Kramers anymore. This is above the Kramers. Remember, William? I said that many times.
Yeah, it went to Alpine.
I said this is a different look. This is not the Kramers. No. The Kramers was such penny ante crooks. I mean, every day they were just trying to market down pennies. I mean, it was completely different look. Completely, and it was like, it's like I was trading against a child. That's what the Kramers were. This is much more sophisticated.
So is that connection because they're connected? Is that one of the things that made you interested in those stocks particularly?
No, GTII. Someone called me up, said that the company got a call from the Charlie Mayo guy, and they were trying to cover a short at a penny. And I said, is the company going to, he goes, no, the company's going to pay off the note. So that means that they'll be exposed. And that's how it started. I didn't even have money in my account to buy it. I told my friends, they started buying it. And the stock ran from like 20 cents to $1.15 real fast on millions of shares. And I says, oh, okay, this is going to be over with. These guys are going to panic. And they just started attacking it back down again. And that's when I got the money in the account and I started buying it myself. And then I started fighting for it. That's, then next thing, Charlie Mayo left a voice message that was all over the street. And that's where it began, and so on and so forth.
Do you know if Charlie Mayo knew Dirty Mayo?
That's why I think that Dirty Mayo's name is Dirty Mayo. to go after Charlie Mayo.
I see.
People don't understand. That guy is just a stooge. Those guys, the Kramers, are the lowest denominator on fraud. These guys run a boiler room operation, very different. The other guys on Madison Avenue are, they think they're a miniature Goldman Sachs, very different type of people. So you can actually see the two difference. But the algorithms are here now, so it's a different game altogether.
Before we get to my next very important question, I want to ask you guys. I'm going to ask William first. William, tell me your favorite dessert and your favorite meat.
I love to meet a beautiful girl, and my favorite dessert.
That's a good one, William.
My favorite dessert, the Sahara.
Another one. Nice.
I
like it.
You stumped them.
All right. Ham,
I was about to say, what is a Sahara? And then I got it.
Ham, favorite dessert, favorite meat.
Creme brulee. And the only reason I'll say a hot dog because it cost me $100,000.
Oh, is that the one where you went out for the hot dog and the stock moved in the interim?
Yes, that was it.
Was it at least a good hot dog?
Oh, it was the best. It's New York City dirty water hot dogs are the best.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
The water, there's no better water than New York water. We all know that. New York City water.
JR, I was just trying to out cornball the cornball, not legal advice.
You certainly did it too, by the way, Mr.
Yeah,
Mr.
really.
Bill. Mr. Bill. How about JR? I never ask you questions. Hey, give me a dessert and meat.
Creme brulee, and my favorite meat is probably a tenderloin. You know, as
Okay.
rare as the chef will make it.
Nice, but dead. All right. So I wanted to talk a little bit about MMTLP. We all know a little bit about MMTLP. Obviously, I'm in a arbitration with Fidelity, jerking around, whatever. I filed a bunch of stuff and kind of were waiting for the last arbiter. But do you guys have any opinion? I know we talk about this, daily, weekly. Do you really have any particular opinion when this will resolve? And before you answer, I do appreciate, just for everybody out there, because obviously JR and I are in MMTLP. We're also in finger motion and GTII, so we're fully out there too. But we hear people, it's tough. There's a split in the MMTLP community. We support whatever gets it done. So we understand the hurt feelings, and I understand that. We try to kind of stay outside the fray, but we appreciate everybody's concerns, and we appreciate everybody who's lost all their money and the stress that puts on people. So, but notwithstanding that, kind of, what's your opinion on where you think it's going to go and how it's going to resolve? Let's go with Ham first.
All right. So number one, I told everyone a long time ago, naked short selling murders people, kills people. I said that before MMTLP even came around. All right. I know, guys. I know one friend who went to Central Park and blew his brains out. Okay. He lost $2 million. He couldn't handle it. So I told you the pressure, all that stuff is real. All right. So when MMTLP came around, obviously the same pattern's going to come out. People got locked down. I do believe that, the people that are fighting are just outstanding. All right. I do believe it's going to settle up. The SEC, FNGR, they made the big mistake of shutting it down. And they made the big mistake of putting in writing that someone got from the Freedom of Information that they were communicating. So they're dead. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. They have an attorney now, Wes Christian, thanks to me. I got him, John. I also got you Charlie Payne to get you the highlight to get that whole thing going for you. And then everybody picked up the pace behind it. So for those people in that community who want to fight with each other, go knock yourself out. It's going to happen. Anna's got the thing, Busy Brands. These people are pushing the right way. I don't know anybody else. If you're looking for medals, then keep fighting and yelling about what you're trying to do. We're not here for medals. Me and William, and I assume you guys here, we're all trying to do is help, expose, and move on. None of us are spring chickens here. We got to move on with our lives. Let's help expose this short. I think everybody here would want to sit there and say, you know what? I got involved in this thing, and you tell your grandkids and say, my God, I helped expose this thing, and it was a great thing I got involved with. And I made some money. That's what I think it's about. MMTLP, call DC, keep following the blueprint. And that's all you're going to do. They're dead. It's just a matter of when. The reason it's taking time is because they're dead. They don't know what to do. It's going to cost billions of dollars to clean it up, and someone's going to jail. So that's what the problem is. There you go.
Thank you. How about you, William?
Well, so much to say, but to do it quickly, I think Ham's exactly right. They're dead. They're trapped and we are too. But remember, we were going to be in a private company anyway, except for those 2 days trading. So in a way, we're getting what we're getting. I just want to emphasize, you're not getting zero back. You're going to get paid. I had, darn it, Pecos Bill came on very kindly after Ham got off my call. And he really did a great job answering questions. I tried to keep the conversation always on his side of the phone because it was much more interesting hearing him. But the one thing I'll point out very quickly is that he said that the 3.2 billion barrels of oil that were originally from the Torchlight days, he is really comfortable with those numbers, remains comfortable. So I just did it while I'm sitting here. If you use 3.2 billion barrels and $15 a barrel, which might be high or low, I think it's low, in the ground as an acquisition. I'm not saying it's coming right away, but with oil at essentially $100 a barrel, and you use 165 million shares, since you should not be diluted, that's almost $300 a share. So I just don't panic about it. It's terrible that you have to wait. My opinion on when it settles is this year. And the reason I say that is the lawyers have had enough time to tell each other how smart they are, to learn on your dime. There must be 200 attorneys from all different parties. They've got to be finished with that now. And now they're seeing the risk that their clients can lose. They've gone through all the picayune arguments like caveat emptor and it belongs to the original Torchlights, or it should only be $3 because that's where they've gone through all that nonsense. And now it's starting to scare them that it could get really expensive. And so that's one, too. If they settle this year, they can write it off on this year's taxes. And finally, they don't want the street to know that naked short selling, counterfeiting of shares, selling ghost shares, phantom shares actually exists.
That's the whole thing. That's it. They're
Yeah.
trying to hide the fact. How are they going to tell anybody that there's more shares exist than they could be? That's the whole thing. It's a
That's why none of those
it's a political hand grenade, Richard. That's what this is.
That's why none of those cases go to trial, because if it goes to trial, that means discovery has occurred and they've been exposed. And
That's happened in Taser, all these companies. Everyone wants to settle and seal it up and never talk about it again.
Yeah, because that's the cheapest and safest way for them.
All right.
Yeah. And for the government, if it's the government or if you're the plaintiff, listen, if you're getting paid off, most people will accept the confidentiality provision. That's just kind of how it goes. And for the government, if they can win a case and it just means they have to keep quiet about it, then why not? I mean, that's their position. But for retail, that's screwed. I mean, it certainly doesn't help retail. I was gonna go ahead.
Let's dig a little deeper in this, because I've had a question, and Richard and I have talked about this. So Ham, in something like this, how do you think they settle it and get the liability? And I don't mean the financial liability, I mean the legal liability
Releases
off the books. How
They're gonna call you up. Fidelity is gonna call you up and say, okay, you own 3,000 shares. You paid $5 for it. They could see it. We're offering you 10. You're going to sit there and say, you know what do I have to do? Sign the release. Exactly. You get your $10 tomorrow. That's it. And you're going to sit there and say, I'm not taking, you'll make a noise. You can say, you know what? Fuck it. Give me my $10.
But JR, your real question to me, and I'll be quick because I'm interrupting you.
No, that's fine.
Is the class. They could get maybe 40% to sell, but then there's 60% left that could sue. And I don't think any attorney is going to say disperse money until you can get that risk down. And so maybe you guys know, is there a percentage of each class that says yes, that then obligates the whole class?
The only reason I'm going to disagree with you, Ham, is because I think the individual broker to broker calling people up and settling out, I don't disagree with you that it's a solution, but I almost feel like we're too far beyond that solution at this point. It's become too big for them to say, brokers, call all your people up and see if you can get rid of them. I just feel like they've got to have more of a consistent global settlement among all these.
I'm not sure you're right, JR.
You're correct. And you know what they're going to do? Just like Richard does in his courts, they're going to drag it on until you can't stand it anymore, until you beg to settle. The time is on their side, not your side. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, but the only thing it's a different slant. It's not so much disagreeing. is there's 105 broker dealers reportedly. I bet 5 of them are in trouble, and the rest just want to get away from this.
But see,
And
here's
they
the
want
other,
to settle it up.
but here's the other issue that comes with a settlement like that. And again, I'm playing devil's advocate, but if I get a call like that from Fidelity, I'm going to tell them no. And the first person I'm going to call is Richard. And I'm going to be testifying in Richard's arbitration that, hey, I got a call from Fidelity. They're trying to buy my shares because they're oversold. Because that would be the only logical reason they would be calling.
But you'll still never get that number. They'll drag it on forever. Instead of being 58 years old, you're going to be 63, and you're going to be still saying the same thing.
Is it hearsay until they put it?
No, he'll be 73. 73.
51.
He just looks 73. That's
Whatever.
just.
Holy hell, I'm probably the youngest guy on here.
I'm just making up a number. That's all.
Yeah, you underestimated. That's all. That's no big problem.
If they just
This was a friendly conversation.
If they just give you a verbal offer, I don't know if it's going to help and not legal advice.
Well, I'm gonna-
Court case.
I think Richard and I would have a very serious conversation about that phone call. I really do.
So
And
let's
I
look at it
get
this
what you're
way.
saying. They don't want that. They don't want that number
Let's
out.
look at it this way. So a shareholder in Finger Motion got a call from a big brokerage firm. I'm not going to say the name. I'm not going to. I don't want to lead it out there. Who it was. Just in case you ask. If it's not Fidelity, I'm not going to tell you it's Fidelity.
Right. No, I get it.
Was
I get it.
Was it Fidelity?
Just in case it is Fidelity. All right. I'm just that's not legal advice. I guess you just a guess. I'm just guessing that it was Fidelity. And they call up and they try to buy the guy's stock if it's Fidelity. If he doesn't want to sell it, when I heard about it, they said, don't say anything. I says, F you. I told everybody.
Yeah, and I get that, but this situation is frozen in time. Their backs are against the wall, and I think
they're trapped too.
I know they're trapped, and I think something like that happening is to our advantage. Because to your point, we're going to go out there and we're going to tell people it happened.
No, listen, they don't care. You listen, there's people out there that want their money.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to try
I
to get
agree.
on the table. So that's number one. If they can get it from 100 people down to 30 people and the 30 stand there as strong and they want to take it the distance for another couple of years and suing and going to court, then so be it. They get 70% of you guys go away. And it just kind of drifts away. That's how.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because JR and I've had that exact conversation. My numbers is more 95% will go away, and they'll deal with the 5%, and they just save themselves a whole boatload of money. That's kind of how
you guys don't believe in the oil in the ground.
No, I absolutely believe in the oil.
Oh, I was going to say something. I was going to say something.
Of the cost is going up, and so you're talking about legal route. I agree with you. That looks like it. But the financial system, the broker dealers, they'll save their own ass. And they'd rather settle the error, get it off the books, get on with life. So I think you'll get a global settlement offer. And maybe it won't be, we'll offer you 10. It'll just be one shot at 30, and then a shot at 150, and a shot at 500. I don't know. They'll come up with something.
Yeah, I've always had that nagging question, and Richard and I talk about it all the time.
I was going to ask you. I'm sorry.
No, how do they get rid of that legal liability? And we've had.
They'll try to get releases.
They get releases from us.
They need releases, absolutely. But how are they going to get it globally?
But I agree with Ham. All of those, they'll shoot for the biggest number they can of getting releases. They'll offer them some number. Most people will go probably lower than they need to, or need the money, or other reasons. Very understandable. But they'll get most people, and they'll deal with the rest, and they'll be fine. They'll save their companies at that point in time, and they'll deal with the liability. They'll pass it off to their insurance company, or they'll pass it off to somebody else to split it up with somebody else. But what I was going to say is, in answer, it's going to be two things. One, William asked about the class action. So you can opt out. You can opt out of a class, but that means you got to pursue your own relief, hire your own lawyer, whatever.
I meant is there a percentage of the class who participates, and then it screws up your own your own situation?
I think I just saw one. There was one that got
I guess you
dismissed
kind of
recently.
answered that.
It was like
Yeah.
6 people. The class was 6 people. So
Yeah.
I could probably have a 3-person class, theoretically.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Right.
but what I was going to say is, I had one experience where I tried to block unsuccessfully the IPO of a company. Because I thought they were committing fraud. And by the way, I was absolutely correct, but the judge in Santa Monica didn't want to stop Lucid from going public. So I sued Lucid Motors. Are you familiar with that company?
Yep.
Yeah, I sued them because I thought their CEO was committing fraud because he was making misrepresentations about what deliveries were going to be. By the way, which 2 years later was 100% correct. But they hired like 2 big law firms, and they opposed my injunction to stop the thing from going forward. But at the same time, there was a class action pending in Northern California. So at some point in time, I just agreed to stay my action and let the class action go forward. But the class actions, in my opinion, suck because it takes forever. And whatever result you get, you end up like a 20-cent off coupon for a Hershey bar is, what the relief is. And the lawyers generally do pretty well. That's kind of how it goes.
To me, there's 2 wrongs. The 2 days you lost in trading, which you'll never get back, but maybe there's a cost to be put on that. And the other is the fact that you were sold counterfeit shares. No one's admitting that yet. No. So I think the system is going to have an urgency to settle up without ever having to admit that.
Yeah, very possible. I was going to say, I'm just going to throw one thing additional out, and JR may want to comment on this. That as to MMTLP, I'm speaking now, not firsthand, certainly, because if it was firsthand, I would treat it differently. But we hear all kinds, and this is kind of relating to comments we see. We hear all kinds of stuff related to stuff regarding MMTLP. We have no idea if it's true, because if we did, we would probably talk about it. So there's reasons sometimes why people don't talk about things besides the fact that somebody's told them not to talk about it. Sometimes just the information is not reliable enough. And we, JR, and we've talked about this a lot, we don't want to throw crap out there and lose credibility. We don't want to throw things out there and then it doesn't come out to be fact. So we're careful. To be honest, we're careful about what we say. Certainly about MMTLP, because we are so sympathetic to the plight of the people in MMTLP, the ones that have lost their lives, the ones, suffered divorces, etc. So to the world out there, we try to be careful. And if we did have firsthand reliable information, we'd talk about it. So just throwing that out. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, JR?
What pops into my head was, and Ham, just so you know, Richard and I have been in MMTLP since day one. And Ham, I started listening to your calls probably 6 months before I got an MMTLP. And I remember you hearing about how this had destroyed lives. And I mean, it would go in one ear and out the other. And when MMTLP happened and I started getting phone calls from people that were losing their homes and people that were going through divorces and talking to some of these people, it really hit it home for me. And, you say we're all in this fight and we are, and it's a huge fight. And it's awful to talk to some of these people. Sorry. It's awful to talk to some of these people and hear what their struggles are. And so, yeah, that's my comment. We Richard and I have really tried to be, an ear and an educational tool to the MMTLP community, which is why we try to stay above the fray. So that's my comment.
I do the opposite. I don't give a shit about I go into this fight. We're going one way. We burned our boats. I've done this a long time. There's no tap dancing around this. This is a disgusting fight. They're here to cut your head off and steal your money, and they don't give a shit. So I treat it as though they're coming after my family. I'm coming back at you. That's the way I look at it. And you know what? I'm old enough. I've seen this a long time. I've had my life threatened 5 times already. I got it. I had guys at my house with guns, DEA agents. I've done everything. Everyone you talk to at UC around this thing, I know, I've taught, I've done it all. So again, what's that?
Let's have
Well,
some
Ham,
fun.
Ham, you
Let's
are a
have
little
some
younger than
fun
me, so I
at
can see
Finger
why you're more
Long's
enthusiastic.
I, what did it say, William? I couldn't
I
see
said,
it.
Ham,
says-
you are a little younger than I am, so I can see where you're more enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Ham, it
Hey, I
says-
started this fight when I was 12 years old. Who the hell's John Walsh? I don't know. That's
Hey, you put it on the truck, John Welsh.
oh,
All
from
right,
put it on
Bunny
the
Bear.
have some
truck.
fun at Finger Long's expense. The
Oh, my
point is
God.
MMTLP is horrible, but this happens across the market in stock after stock, family after family, CEO after CEO. The whole city of Rochester, New York, I learned from him because of Eastman Kodak. I mean, this destruction has to stop. And yes, I share your comments on MMTLP, but it's everywhere. It's not a one-off. MMTLP.
Listen, my older brother
I know.
was a major risk arb guy. Okay, and he put positions on, and he had to borrow stock because he was very detailed hedging stocks. You know, it depending like Richard back in the day, Pennzoil and Texaco was suing each other, and it was a big thing about where the case was going to be heard, whether it was New York or Texas. So, you know, to trade that stock around, you need to hedge it. You know, you don't know if it's going to be good, bad, you know, so big position. So they hedge it. He said that he told me years ago, he says they can't settle Apple. If they stop trading and say settle up all the trades, there's so many counterfeit shares at Apple Computer and all these stocks. They're flooded with them. All right. So again, the whole system, we don't feel it in Apple as much as you do in, you know, Finger Motion or GTI or like an MMTLP. Susan Trimbat, $9 billion a day. $9 billion a day in unsettled trades, right?
Yeah.
And what happens if they are concentrated in 300 stocks versus 10,000? What does the concentration do? It destroys companies, that weight. So let's say they sold 9 billion on Monday, and let's say they buy back, you know, 10% or 20%. Okay, the shares do not. What is if they buy
That's
back
Alan of
10%?
Alameda.
So let's say it's 9 billion. At the end of Monday, there's 7 billion still out there. Do that every day. They don't cover them back. Finger Motion and GTII and MMTLP, they never bought any back. You can see it. Everyone can see it. So they may go back and forth on an Apple or NVIDIA, and when they create those wild swings. But in our wild swings, these guys were still selling it at 4 5/8, right, Richard?
No question.
They were trying to knock it down to $4 or $3. They weren't buying it back there. So one guy said to me on the story about, you know, I'm not saying it's Fidelity. I'm just taking a guess. It's an easy name. If Fidelity were to buy a shareholder stock at $13 this week, would the shorts come back and short it back down? I said, wait a second. You just told me they paid 13 and they're going to sell it back down again? I mean, come on. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I mean, that's the damage. These guys would kill themselves doing that. Imagine buying it back at 13 and selling it back down to 6. That's, you know, that game is over at that point. Once one buy-in begins, it's lights out.
I know you mentioned 13. Is 13 a magic number?
It's a lucky number, I guess. I don't know.
You said in China, it's a lucky number, right?
Yeah. Well, I went to a football game in Orlando, and I stayed at the Marriott on International Drive, and they gave me my keys, and I went to the elevator, and I says, "Wait a second, the 13th floor? I thought it was a joke, because I don't remember any hotels having a 13th floor, and they did. They have a 13th floor. I said, I guess it's lucky. I don't know.
Or maybe the shorts gave you that room.
It's so funny that 13 came up at that football game, and here's 13 coming up again. That's a number that someone wants to pay. It's pretty interesting.
It is pretty
beautiful mind.
I was going to say to Ham, I knew you had to be younger than JR, the oldest one here, because you're the only one playing sports competitively. And I don't even see it, but I know because I've been down there, I've broken my joints enough to kind of been past that, unfortunately. I wish I could hurt like you hurt. Honestly. And
Actually,
by the way,
I got 2 gel shots and a cortisone shot, so I'm ready to go. I go another 20 years.
that's right. You take some more pain on. Good for you. I wish I could take it on. By the way, just to be clarify a point. Yes, a backwards poet writes in verse. I wanted to address briefly that Alan's comment because William did, and I was going to say, notwithstanding that the question was about FINRA asserting that the reason why they issued the U3 halt was because of settlement issues, and William put out there's no shares. What are you talking about? You know, why are you even saying? But I was going to say beyond that, if you even look at like the FAQ that FINRA put out and then revised and then letters, they don't even in the end say it was a settlement issue in the end.
Right.
So what they said is, Jessica Hopper apparently said is just move the short position over into the new company because that's what they always do. But
Right.
this time the shorts got trapped. And by the way, who knocked the toothpaste off the shelf? Yelled he crestfallenly.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
There you go.
Oh, my goodness.
God.
As Arca would say, my goodness.
JR, don't worry. None of that stuff is ever coming out of my mouth. Don't worry about that.
All right. All right.
I'm just
You and
trying
I
to keep
need to
up
start
with
doing a
not
show.
legal advice
William's putting me to shame tonight, to be quite honest.
with the worst joke.
If you want to be invited back, William, then please hush. Please. I was going to ask you a question, something that I've wondered about. We see, what appears to be shills kind of like communicating on Spaces, on Twitter, and whatever. What did those guys get paid? I mean, what kind of compensation did those guys get? Did they get money? Did they get shares? Did they get chocolate?
Money. I mean, money. They get cash. It's they get. My guess is what I heard before. They get debit cards.
Oh, interesting.
Prepaid debit cards, and they go out and spend it. So there's no paper trail.
I see. So, do you have any idea or guesses? Like, let's say those guys who put out the short report on finger motion. Do you have any guess? $50,000. Wow, for that piece of crap.
They needed something to have cover. So it's basically they shoot that. They needed someone to write get it out there, and they attack on that. That's what they do.
Listen, I want to.
They need the story, and then they have the troops attacking as the story's hitting. So everybody's associating that the story is what's driving the stock down. That's what they do it for.
Listen, if they paid me 35, I would do a better job.
I would have done it for 10,000.
Yeah, so Capybara, come on, call the right people before you put out that stuff.
Right.
William, do you have any knowledge in that area?
Well, the
About
only
the issue of shills.
in Twitter, I heard that it's like $7 or $12 a response, but I don't know what they get. My guess is they're either part of the team or they got a bounty.
Well, let's look at it this way, guys. Let's take it up the ladder. Andrew Left is one of the biggest, short and distort guys. He started out many years ago called Stock Lemon. He used to bash penny stocks, small cap stocks. After they destroyed so many small cap stocks, he moved up to the big stocks. And he realized that if he attacks a $100 stock, they drop $10 before anybody knows what happened. And you can see he did it in Etsy, ETSY, recently. So they're looking for $10, $20, and they can go in and out of those names because there's plenty of liquidity, and they can buy puts and short it and everything. Andrew Left, living in Beverly Hills, is now living in fear of the DOJ. He's probably done so many shorts and distorts. He's made millions of dollars, and he went from Stock Lemon to now with Citron, and now he's concerned about his freedom. What's that? I can't.
What are you showing, William?
This This is from the report from Crappy Barra. We recommend, talking about my YouTube videos, we recommend against spending time watching these videos unless you want to lose brain cells. That's the only truthful thing they probably put in the whole report.
You know, I saw that, and I saw your comment about that, and I agreed, by the way.
Well, someone just popped up on the chat on the screen saying the Kramers are short and distort. The Kramers are a weak short and distort. They don't run the campaigns. They pay people to do it for them.
I think he's referring to Kramer on TV.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, he's
TV.
an idiot. Listen,
Yeah.
my idea is to get a financial news show. And on every Friday, I want to have a segment, which I already spoke with DraftKings about, which they would take odds on it. I want to have Jim Cramer's stock pick, whatever he picks is his best stock. And then I want to have a monkey throw shit against the wall. Whatever symbol it lands on, see who does better, the monkey throwing the shit or Kramer in his pick. And then have DraftKings make odds on it to see who's better.
You know who's going to win.
The monkey.
Of course. Of course.
I mean, we can set that up for you on YouTube. You don't need your own TV show to do that.
We want to turn it into a Friday event. Every Friday, we roll out with the chimpanzee on rollerblades, and he throws his shit against the wall. His own shit.
How does Kramer stay on the air? I don't know how that guy. He's so bad.
He went public. TheStreet.com, TSCM, funded by Goldman Sachs, $75 a share to zero. The guy, it went to zero. He's worthless. All you have to do is look what he's done. He's funded by Goldman Sachs, $75 to zero.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he's making a boatload of money, and he's pushing out a particular point of view to support that point of view. William, do you follow Kramer at all?
I do. I read a couple of his books initially when he came on. Look, the guy has a need to brag, and he has to sort of tell the truth. There's a video out there with James Altucher, younger version, where Kramer admits everything he did on a trading desk. He violated all these rules, and no one cares because I always say it. Ham will get mad at me for saying it probably, but look, if it's good for Goldman Sachs, if Goldman Sachs does it, it's not illegal.
I'm not going to get mad at that.
And he's a Goldman Sachs. He's a Goldman Sachs alum.
Do you have JR? Did you want to add anything?
I never liked the guy. That's as far as it goes. I never watched him in that YouTube video.
He's rarely correct.
He's that's the problem. Is he's in a particular business and he's no good.
Yeah, but he's entertainment as far as I'm concerned.
Actually, in my opinion, they should put Kramer from Seinfeld on that show, and it would be much better, more entertaining, and they wouldn't have to change any of the names or anything like that.
Listen, William, and I just wanted to let you know it wasn't James Alshuter. It was Aaron Task.
Aaron Task. Okay.
Task. That's who it was.
Okay.
I know James, and James is the nutty professor. It wasn't him.
He is a nutty. I like him.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
I don't know him personally, but I subscribe to him.
He's a chess master. You know that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He used to go to the park all day and play chess and wipe everybody out.
He looks a little like Sam Blankman-Fried.
He's a very nice guy. I met him many times.
Yeah.
Before I ask the last question, I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask a pre-question to the last question. First, I'm going to start off with JR. Favorite movie ever?
Favorite movie ever?
One.
Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Wow.
Okay. Khan. Yeah, that's Khan.
When I was a kid, my dad took me to every Star Trek movie. I've always been a Star Trek fan. So.
My turn?
Yes.
Beckett.
All right. Ham?
It's The Big Bounce. My father took me to see The Big Bounce, and it was a semi-pornographic movie that was. And I always remembered it.
How old were you?
Probably 9.
That semi might apply to more than one thing, correct?
Are we? Was that an investment movie where he was short squeeze, the big bounce?
No, it had nothing to do with that.
just for the record, mine is Godfather 1 and 2. That's my particular.
That's 2.
Well,
That's 2 movies, though.
I know,
That's
but it's
2,
one.
Richard.
It's one book, 2 movies. So I'm
What
counting.
they've
this one.
done to my boy. Look what they did to my boy.
Richard, you should watch The Making of the Godfather. It's on Paramount. It's the, I guess it's The Making of the Godfather, and it was excellent. You should watch it. Excellent.
I will. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
second, Zero Dark 30 is one of my favorites. I watch all the time. And there's one segment, I forget the girl's name. She's in the cafeteria, and James Gandolfini comes in, and he says to her, you know, he says to her, "What else have you done for us since you've been working here?" She's working there 12 years, and she goes, "I've only done one thing, and that's, you know, Bin Laden." And every time I see that, it's me. Since
Only done one
3
thing.
years, I've only
Did you
done.
kill Bin Laden? Are you coming out now that you're the guy who killed Bin Laden? Is
I'm
that
just
true?
saying, for 23 years, I've done the same thing. That's just all I know. You know, I did something
You've
else.
collected naked shorts.
I collected naked shorts. And I watch that movie. Every time I see her say that, you know, I look at it. She goes, "That's all I ever done. That's what I done." My kids, my family, everybody knows that that's all I ever talk about for 23 years.
Every singer sings one song. Look at
I was gonna
Alanis
say-
Morissette.
Look, you know, if you wouldn't have told us that pickup line, I'd say you're full of shit. But I believe you, Ham.
I think you have the confidence of expertise. You know, when somebody's an expert in something, they just come across like they know it, they're comfortable with it, and that's how you come across. So that gives me comfort. Just to let you know.
I've been around guys that run billions of dollars that step up and try to smack me down, and I just trample them because they're not. It's just like you said, they understand it, but they don't understand it. And I get them to turn, and I get them to buy the stock when I'm done with them.
The hardest thing going on now, what Ham has is this experience back when there were real trading desks, when there were real orders, when you had real research reports, time when a company announced they had an investment bank and they're going to do an offering, it would go up.
Right.
But now there's no price discovery anymore. There's no human being standing in. It's even JP Morgan, that guy Diamond is saying he's using artificial intelligence to hedge his portfolios. Ham remembers when trading had price discovery, when he could see a pattern and he could trade on it, and he has that skill. What's scary, not legal advice, and this goes a little bit to MMTOP, what is scary is money has been concentrated in these huge pools like SAC or Citadel. You can't get the returns they're getting without cheating. And that they're cheating. I just pulled it out, this article with the toad on front of it. The biggest scandal you've never heard about. Just one of the clearing houses in Europe, 27.5 trillion failing trades in 2022. And then why isn't this front page news? Investors and pension funds are being robbed on a daily basis. And there's nothing stopping the endless pillaging of North American markets. It says here, you can't do it in Europe. Pillaging of North American markets by our own funds, by our own banks. That's 27.5 trillion. So what's scary, if you believe this report, here's the head of it, which I got, I think, originally on a Ham Twitter. If you believe it, they can't let this secret out because people start pulling their money out of all these funds and the market goes down. If you read Trimbath here, it I won't bore you, but here, I happened to open it right to the page. It says, Now,
Could you read us?
she-
Could you
she
read us a
goes-
few chapters, William? Please, a
I'm
few
not going to
chapters.
read. It's two
Go ahead,
sentences.
Go ahead, William.
Two
Have at it.
sentences. Now I believe that we face a true regulatory crisis. The current system may not survive. That's what they're scared about.
Yeah.
Hey, William,
Well,
did I give you that book, William?
No, I bought it, but you gave me the name of it.
I'm going to I'm going to ask Ham the question because I know what William's answer would be. You'll understand why I'm not asking you. When do you think this all began? Under whose tutelage did this kind of these kind of missteps start occurring?
I showed you on Forbes, that was February 1988, but I forget the gentleman's name. It goes back, I think I've seen it go back to 1985.
That's pathetic that it's gone on that long. Really pathetic. Because I know part of it is, and I really agree with you. Part of this whole nonsense is all the biotechs and potential cures of diseases that get wiped out from this nonsense. And that's not nothing. That is people's lives. And it applies to everybody.
I think it's gotten worse since 85.
Even the shorts. It applies to the shorts too. They have people. They have family. I find it disgusting. And when Ham talked about that, it really resonated with me. It really isn't. That's an atrocity.
He's right.
Because obviously for companies like that, really should shorts be allowed? Really?
Well, let's look at it this way. Let's look at famous people. Steve Jobs, right? Died of cancer. How much money did he have? Billions. He would have done anything, given away all his money to be alive today. Celine Dion's dying. Her sister said there's no medicine to cure what she has. That's just, I'm giving you high level people, but for the most part, it's the same everywhere.
Yeah.
Richard, I know Gary's trying to get out of here. I mean, JR is looking to leave. He wanted to cut it short. You said that before. But Richard, the Gary Aguirre, you need to go do some due diligence on him.
Okay.
He was a former SEC enforcement. I'll give you the short version of it. He was a former SEC enforcement who caught the head of Morgan Stanley. I'm blank on his name for a second, but
Mac.
Yeah, Mac. Right. Whatever his name is. His last name is Mac.
Big is his first name Big?
Anyway.
No, it's called the Hamburger Royale.
The Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese.
So anyway, Mac was the CEO of Morgan Stanley. He had put his money in a fund called Pequot, and he was tipping off Pequot about deals pending mergers.
John
So
Mac.
Pequot was making money off the inside information from Mac, and Gary Aguirre caught him. The SEC went after Gary Aguirre and kicked him out. They told him to stay away because Mac has too much juice. Don't go after him. So they fired Aguirre from the SEC because he wanted to do his job. And this is a good guy at the SEC. And I think that's something you should look at. And there's plenty of good information about that. But that just shows you how bad the SEC was protecting the head of Morgan Stanley, tipping off the information to his own fund to get bigger returns. That's where his money was.
Some people might call that illegal. Some people.
Not the people that run Wall Street. They let it go. But that is something I think you should look at. His name is Gary Aguirre. He was a former SEC enforcement guy. They kicked him out, and then years later they settled with him because they kicked him out. It was unfair.
I wrote it down. And JR, before I let these fine gentlemen go, do you have anything else you want to ask?
Ham, I thought that was a picture of you on the cover of Forbes magazine. No?
Oh, the naked shorts? Oh, no.
No, I think this is a great conversation. Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to thank you guys so much. I hope we do it again. I hope we all have a great week. I'm winking here. A great week for everybody. I hope everybody's speed.
Well, let me give you my parting gift was.
Sure.
I was around a big crowd of people, and trying to teach people how to fight security fraud and how they need this volatility, and the way to remove the volatility how do you stop this volatility? And I said, you know what? You build a Great Wall of China at a price, let's say $7.25, and just stand there and see if they hit you, or just stay there instead of chasing it. Pick a number and just stand tall. And that's how you take the volatility out of these wild swings. Because when they see a big wall of buyers, guess what happens? Nothing. It just they poke at it a little bit, and they sort of test to see how many guns we have. And it's a famous movie, Richard. It's not legal advice. There was a movie called Zulu. I don't know if you remember that movie.
I do remember that.
And the British soldiers were standing there, and the Africans were charging. And they said, what are they doing? They said, they're counting our guns. They wanted to see how much firepower we had. It's the same idea here. They want, when you put up a wall, they come down and they may sell 200, 300. If the bids are still standing there, they know that there's buyers there, and they back away.
All I have to say to that is the wall just got 5 feet taller. Let's go with 13 instead of 7.
Listen, I hope tomorrow it opens at 13. And
listen, guys, I hope tomorrow it opens at 30. Let's have a little optimism.
Listen, I don't know the name of the brokerage firm. So again, I'm just taking a guess. If it was Fidelity making calls on behalf of people, that's what they would do at JR and an MMT situation. They would call Fidelity up. Fidelity would call up clients of their firm and say, hey, would you like to sell it? It's pretty easy. You're going to say, F you, I'm not selling. They can say, hey, I don't care. You want to take, would you like to take it? Yes or no? And they that's how it works on a gray market. Anyway, I'm going to go watch the 49er game, and hopefully Ace is suffering a little bit there tonight.
Me too.
I don't think he is.
I'm offended he didn't join us. Again, I want to thank everybody. Everybody be well and have a great week. And thanks again, guys.
You got it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for the
Always
invite.
appreciate the
Thank you
conversation.
both. Thank you.